Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, of number 4, Privet Drive, prided themselves on being perfectly normal. Mr. Dursley was a large man, with a prominent mustache, while Mrs. Dursley was thin, and often observed her neighbors from their garden. They had a son named Dudley, whom they considered the finest boy. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they harbored a secret. They were ashamed of Mrs. Dursley's sister, Mrs. Potter, and her family. They believed the Potters were strange, so much so that Mrs. Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister. On a gray Tuesday morning, as Mr. Dursley left for work, he didn't notice an owl flying past the window, or a tabby cat reading a map, thinking it was just a trick of the light. On his way to work, he encountered several oddly dressed people, which irritated him. He tried to dismiss his unease until he overheard a conversation about the Potters, which caused him to panic. Mr. Dursley returned to his office, avoiding thoughts of the Potters, but his day was disrupted by strange occurrences, including owls flying during the day and people in cloaks. Later, as he watched the evening news, he learned of the unusual behavior of the nation's owls and reports of shooting stars. Disturbed, Mr. Dursley decided to ask Mrs. Dursley about her sister. Their conversation was tense, and he felt the weight of the Potters' secret looming over them. That night, while the Dursleys slept, a mysterious cat watched over Privet Drive until a tall old man named Albus Dumbledore appeared. He was joined by Professor McGonagall, who expressed concern of the Muggles noticing the magical happenings. They discussed the defeat of Voldemort and the tragic fate of the Potters, revealing that Harry Potter had survived Voldemort's attack. Dumbledore intended to leave Harry with his aunt and uncle, the Dursleys, believing it was the safest place for him. They were soon joined by Hagrid, who arrived on a giant motorcycle, carrying baby Harry, who had a lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. After a moment of emotional farewells, Dumbledore left Harry on the Dursleys' doorstep, tucking a letter into his blankets. As they departed, Dumbledore activated a magical device to restore the street lights before disappearing into the night. Harry, unaware of his significance, slept on quietly, while people across the country toasted to him, celebrating Harry Potter, the boy who lived.